Hi everyone, welcome to math class. I know this is different than what we're used to, but we're going to give this a shot and see if this works out a little bit better than the previous weeks that we've tried. So hopefully this will give you a better idea of what's going on. Since we are starting a new chapter, we are going to start now chapter 9, which has to do with integers and the coordinate plane. And we're not going to go through the whole entire chapter because we're going to really focus on positive and negative numbers and adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing those. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. But today we are going to start with chapter 9, lesson 1, integers and absolute value. And there'll be some videos for you to watch and some work to do. And then the pages should be in your OneNote and content library under chapter 9. The textbook pages can be used as a reference for you. And any worksheets that you might have to do will also be scanned into that content library. So hopefully you'll be able to access those. So let's just see how this week goes. We'll take it step by step, and hopefully it'll go without any glitches. I'll keep my fingers crossed, but just try your best and we will see how this goes. First off, this chapter 9, lesson 1 this is the what we're going to be doing today. We're going to learn to identify and graph integers and find the opposites. So let's go over some of the vocabulary that is included in this lesson. The vocabulary for this lesson is there's positive number, negative number, opposites, integer, and absolute value. So those are the things we're going to be talking about today. Let me just go over the vocabulary. Just like we would in class, we'd be actually cutting them out and gluing them into your notebook, but now you can just look at them online. Okay, a positive number. Positive numbers are greater than 0. They may be written with a positive sign, but they're usually written without. So if you can recall, you might not remember, but above the dry erase board in the classroom, there was a number line. And we had positives and negatives on there too. So you can kind of try to use that as a reference in your mind. Negative numbers are less than 0. They are always written with a negative sign. So negative numbers have to have the negative sign in front of it. Positive numbers, usually we do not write that positive sign in front. We just assume that it is positive, because if it was negative, it would have to have the negative sign. So, okay, let's see. So you might think, why do I need to know about negative numbers? There are real life situations, and this is going to give you a couple of examples how you would see negative numbers in the real world. So our examples, identifying positive and negative numbers in the real world. All right, so it says, name a positive or negative number to represent each situation. The first one, A jet climbing to an altitude of 20,000 feet. So in that example, it says positive numbers can represent climbing or rising. So it's going up. And so you could think of that, anything that is climbing or rising, as a positive. So that is a positive number. So you would write, it would be plus 20,000 feet. So you would have the positive sign in front of it. Now, something where you would get a negative number in real life, taking $15 out of the bank. When you are taking out or withdrawing in a situation, that can be a negative. That would be a negative $15, because you're not adding $15. It's not positive, it's negative. You're taking that money away. So it's negative 15. So you'd have the negative sign in front of the 15, and that's how that would look. Now, let's do some more. Here's another situation. 7 degrees below 0. Now, we have to worry about the temperature all the time. It usually does not get that cold in Cincinnati. sometimes with the wind chill, we'll get down in like the single digits, but we don't always, actually pretty rarely do we get below 0, which I think I'd enjoy, but I know I'm not necessarily the norm with everybody. Okay, so negative numbers can represent values below or less than a certain value. So in this case, 7 degrees below 0, that is definitely a negative number. It is -7. That's how you would write that. All right. Now, here's some more examples of positive and negative numbers in real life situations. We have example A, 300 feet below sea level. So if something is below or less than a certain value, that again is going to be represented by the negative sign. So 300 feet below sea level would be, you would type in, or you would write -300 feet below sea level. And then opposite of below sea level, if you are climbing or rising, it says a hiker hiking an altitude of 4,000 feet. That's above sea level. So that would be a positive 4,000. But I can't seem to write this on here. Oh, let me see if I can get this. Well, my little thing is not working. But that would be a positive sign and then the 4,000. That's what it would be for climbing or rising. And again, below sea level would be the negative. Okay, now here we have money again. If you lose money or if money decreases, and it would decrease if you're spending $34, that means you're taking $34 away from whatever amount you have in your wallet or your checkbook or whatever. So it is going to be -34 because you are taking that money away. So the amount of money you have is going to decrease $34 because you spend it. Now let's say you get a birthday card and you have money in there. Let's say you have a $20 bill from your grandma. That would be a positive 20 because you are adding to the money that you already have. So with positive and negative, just think of these real life situations to help you understand the idea behind it. So that would be real life situations. And this next slide shows us what they look like on the number line. So the traditional number line, like when you were younger, it would start with 0 and then move to the right-hand side, each number getting larger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just normal. But now that you're getting bigger, we have the number line that has the negative numbers as well. So it says on a number line, opposites are the same distance from 0, but on different sides of the 0. And that's pretty, I think, self-explanatory. If you have a positive 2, the opposite would be -2 because the 2 is 2 away from 0 in the positive direction. So the opposite of that would be going 2 away from 0 in the negative direction. So positives and negatives are opposites. The opposite of +5 would be -5, and so on. Now, integers, you heard that word in the beginning of the lesson when I introduced the lesson. Integers are the set of all the whole numbers and their opposites. So the integers in this set would be like -5 to 5. And that includes 0 as well. 0 does not have, it's not a negative or positive, it's just 0. So, but that's the integers are this set. Okay, so we have opposites. Oops, sorry. Where'd I go? All right, sorry. All right, so then remember, the set of whole numbers includes 0 and the counting numbers. Okay, and then these are already plotted for you, but it says graph each integer and its opposite on the number line. So it gives you +2, and it has that positive in front of it. And right here on the number line, if you see where my little mouse thing is moving around, here's the +2, and then you're going to go -2, the same distance but in the opposite direction. And here it is. It's plotted right there for you. Same thing with -5. We're going to plot that one. And then there's 0. And then in the opposite direction, it's +5. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I hope you're okay with that. So again, here we have +1 is graphed, and then you plot -1. Okay. Let's see. They have +3 here, right here. It's 3 spaces from 0, going 3 spaces negative is the -3. And same with -4. You start here, it's 4 spaces away from 0. Now go in the other direction, you're going to have +4. Okay, and then you have 0, and there's no, it's its own opposite. So 0 is just 0, so that's all you'd have. Okay, so that is the beginning of this lesson. Now, something you might not have heard of before has to do with absolute value. And if you notice these lines, that is the lines that represent this absolute value. So it says the absolute value of an integer is its distance from 0 on a number line. The symbol for absolute value is, it's those 2 lines that enclose the number. So this line right here and there, that is the absolute value. So you would read this as the absolute value of -3 equals 3, and the absolute value of 3 is 3. So here's the thing. Absolute value, like the absolute value of any number, it will never be negative. So this absolute value of -3 is 3 because you're talking about the distance from 0. So it's 1, 2, 3. It's 3 units away from 0. Even though you're going in the negative direction, it's still 3 away from 0. So really, quite honestly, really quickly to figure out what the absolute value is just take the negative away, and that's the distance. And if it's already positive, that's your answer. The absolute value of 0 is 0. So it might seem kind of confusing at first, but really it's not too bad. So if you look at this number line, here's 0. We have our negative numbers and our positive numbers. We have this first question is to find out what the absolute value of -2 is. So the absolute value, remember, we have to find out the distance from -2 to 0, and -2 is 2 units from 0. So the absolute value of -2 is 2. It's just 2. That's it. And again, you could just take that, just a thing to remember, take the negative sign away, and that's your answer. Let's do this one. The absolute value of 8, well, it's already a positive, and how many units away from 0 is 8? Well, here's 0, there's 8, so that one's just going to be 8. That's your answer. The absolute value of 6, well, 6 is 6 units from 0, so it is 6. So don't get confused, or don't worry yourself. It's a lot easier than it seems. The absolute value of -4, -4 is 4 units from 0, so the absolute value of -4 is 4. I can't get it to, there we go. It's just +4. So that is the first lesson. So today you were just supposed to watch the lesson. Tomorrow I'll have another little video for you to watch, and then a workbook page, and you can always go back and rewatch this if you have any questions. All right, see you later.